Hey, this is Sho, and thank you so much for checking out the video. Now, in the first upcoming release video I made back in, probably like November, October of 2021 or so, I made a reference to a strange turn-based shooter called Research and Destroy. At that time, it was scheduled for release, but was pushed back only until the end of April. Now the game is finally available, and this game does market itself as the strategy category. Let's see what this game brings to the table as we check out Research and Destroy. Released by Spike Chunsoft of Danganronpa and Steins Gate fame, and developed by Implausible Industries, Research and Destroy is actually the first official release from Implausible Industries. Now, there isn't much on this development team, aside from that some of the members worked with Grasshopper Manufacturer back in the day, and they have a lot of Unreal Engine experience, so this is actually their first work released. Kudos to them. As for the game itself, I can best describe it as Valkyria Chronicles with science and monsters. It centers on you, the player, and your team of 3 scientists, Gary the Hazmat Bro, Marie the Junior Scientist, and Larry the Super Scientist. What we learned from the start is that humans died out as science wasn't trusted anymore, and that led to the imagination going wild, which summoned the supernatural into reality. That's a savage take on current affairs. Anyway, your team of super scientists then head out and explore the world for the supernatural monsters and vanquish them with the power of science and industry, or research. And I suppose somewhere in there they're trying to find a way to restore humanity, or maybe wipe everything out. Honestly, it's not really all that clear. As for the premise, it's, I guess, entertaining. I mean, there's a lot of humorous dialogue, and the overall comic silly feeling gives me No More Heroes vibes. Just not nearly as refined and much less moe. I do admit, though, that there are a lot of really nice customization options, and you have a lot of different loadout unlocks, which is really cool, and you can kind of make, I guess, your own canon and your own team's story. I mean, the campaign mode that you go through is fairly hands-off, so you can kind of imagine your own story into it if you wish. Now, it's no surprise that this game has multiplayer. In fact, it was a major part of the marketing, and in fact, the game's tutorial makes it super clear by having references to having sofa players or online players backing you up will make your life a lot easier with the campaign. As for the integration of multiplayer, it's kind of hard to get working. First, you can't unlock multiplayer until you finish the game's tutorial, which is about 2 to 3 hours of single play, I'd guess. After unlocking it, you can do split-screen co-op, which is great, and online play as well. As I have no friends, I went online, and here's where things kind of got weird. By selecting the Join option from the main menu, you are taken to a new screen and asked for the network mode. I selected Internet and refreshed the list. Through my image, I was imagining I would be able to join someone else's campaign, as the game mentioned in its tutorial. But nada. Nada. There's nothing there. There is kind of a friends online section, so I suppose that the internet play on the Switch is only for those on your friend list, and it's not open for just, I guess, public invitations. However, when I started my campaign myself, I have the option to turn on multiplayer, and it gives me local, private, anyone, and split screen. So at least from my perspective, private kind of feels like friends only, and anyone would be for, I guess, like a public lobby. But it seems that all multiplayer, at least on the Switch version, is based around the friend codes. So, alright, let's try the split screen. When turning on 2-player split screen, naturally, the screen splits, and your guest player gets a full second set of scientists. So, you effectively double the size of your force. It also appears that the supernatural gain a slight boost in life, as they seemed a bit more spongy, but I can't fully confirm this. Yet, a new point that's added is actually the countdown timer. So in total, both players, yourself if you only use 2 controllers I guess, only have about 1 or 2 minutes to collectively take your turn. This, I imagine, is to ensure that single players don't completely cheat the system by doubling their power. Now with that out of the way, let's cover the quick deets on visuals, audio, and performance. Visually, Research and Destroy looks as if you took No More Heroes and popped it into a 50s monster comic book. It's extremely vibrant and colorful, though the character models are quite low res, very simple. They match, I guess, that comic book aesthetic and the tone and the nature, but don't expect much in terms of detail. Now, this does have kind of a charming, semi-spooky atmosphere as well. It's very, very far from serious. It's just, I don't know. I guess just to describe it, it's just really vibrant, like you're reading an old school comic book. Just don't really expect some of the more beautiful, more refined art styles that you see with things like No More Heroes. For the audio, well, it's fine. You have spooky sound effects, but it's mostly pretty chill. The music itself is quite simple, and I kind of feel like it's like a children's Halloween movie vibe. I mean, it's not like super happy, but it's not like super scary. Nothing I would personally write home about, but again, I guess it matches that atmosphere. Now, for a game like this, I mean, the performance will matter a lot, right? Especially with the online component. Well, considering my luck with online components, from doing a good amount of single play, I would say it's pretty solid. I did notice a few drops here and there, but this is a turn-based strategy game a la Valkyria Chronicles, right? So the drops don't really impact the gameplay too much, and I admit they were kind of few and far between. For online, again, I can't say because I couldn't find any games to get going. Once again, the best I can describe Research and Destroy is a sort of Valkyria Chronicles with monsters with a Risk-like campaign mode. So let's break it down. The campaign is where you have a lot of your traditional strategy game assets. Here, you will see areas that you have under your control and any universities or bases and defenses built on them. You also have a car that allows you to move around the map. During this time, you'll use your science, yes, it's written as $sign science, to research weapons and defense upgrades, as well as scouting and exploring areas under supernatural control. I guess this functions a lot like XCOM. Progressing research takes time, and you have a time clock on the right side that will count down to 30 days. This will happen as you drive the car or just manually pass the time. This is also considered your turn within the game. After a cycle of 30 days, your turn ends, and then the supernatural have a chance to take their turn, which may result in an attack on your universities. So, being able to set stable upgrades and defenses for your areas is key. Now, it's important to note two more extremely important points of this mode. First, each player, so that's player, has 3 scientists, and they must be at least 1 scientist actively working to progress on any project. So if you're doing building a university, at least 1 scientist must be there for the university to be built. On single player, up to 2 scientists can work on a single project. If you are in multiplayer then, your teammates have their own set of scientists that can support you, which means you can double up and have your research upgrades occur quicker. Second, in regards to researching new weapons, gadgets, and upgrades, you'll need to fulfill requirements before you do so. This could be as simple as just researching an enemy's knowledge at your base or your university, or more complicated such as getting X number of kills and so on. Also, each weapon has pairs of upgrades that are mutually exclusive. Now the game does warn you about this. Basically, you only have 3 upgrades per weapon, so you can only pick one or the other. So for that reason, best choose wisely based on your playstyle and your preferences. Now, during missions, you have a full free roam view of the map, which you can explore up, down, and all around. Team members can be selected using X button or one of your directional buttons. Selecting a unit allows you to perform the usual actions of a third-person shooter, aiming, moving, etc. The catch is, you have to act with a limited amount of time, 8 seconds to be exact. Moving, sight aiming, shooting, or interacting with objectives all impact this 8-second countdown. Drawing and sheathing weapons consumes time as well, so be very careful when doing so. The advantage of having a weapon sheathed is that you can run faster to close gaps for objectives quicker. When the timer is up, your selected character instantly freezes in place and cannot be selected again. And that is very important because you will literally freeze in place. This includes mid-air or mid-climb, which can impact your stability and make you fall down if the enemy gets the jump on you. So be very careful with your movements, as it does take extra seconds for you to stand back up. On that note, standing still and using the right directional stick does not consume any time, and is the only action you can do when you select a unit that is free, so to speak. So once more, standing still and only looking around with your right directional stick. That's the only thing you can do that does not reduces a character's 8-second timer. Now, the aforementioned objectives are fairly straightforward, with most being to recover research items, kill supernaturals, or make it to extraction zones. So, nothing too special, especially if you're familiar with XCOM. As for the weapons, there's actually a lot of variety in the way that they're used. You got your rifles, grenade cluster bombs, Hog's bosom launchers? It's great to have a team with different weapon styles, and there's a lot of good science references there. Just be careful with your area of effect weapons, as damaging your teammates is a thing in this game. So I guess to close this part out, Research and Destroy takes familiar elements from games like XCOM and Valkyria Chronicles and paints them a shade of science and zombies. The basic mechanics are easy to pick up, but can be overwhelming if you're new to these systems. For veterans, I imagine it's par for the course, and you'll get in and you'll do what you do, until you figure out the game's difficulty. Research and Destroy offers no difficulty settings. It seems to be one size fits all and built for multiplayer, which brings a certain amount of concern to me. The demo of this game highlights this extremely well, as the game isn't shy of throwing literal hordes of enemies at you, and if you only have 24 total seconds to get acting, and aiming via sight lowers your time, you're really just outgunned every single moment. And I mean it, this game is extremely frustrating when solo. I burn all 3 of my scientists on killing 10 or so zombies, making little headway to my next objective, to have 10 units spawn again. This spawning mechanic is set by the AI, with each turn more and more supernatural spawning. And this is regardless of how many you knock down. Drop 10, they could spawn 8, they could spawn 10, they could spawn 20. It just makes balancing the movement and the damage mitigation extremely challenging. And it is through this system you can see why people, or I should say the people of the game, make it so adamant about playing with friends, because honestly, you just need more people. Top this off with a lot of distinct enemy types with specific attack styles and the limited loadout you have, you are in for one heck of a challenge. And I mean it, this game will test your patience and really, really push your buttons at times. I don't think it's impossible, but I just feel it's plain unfair most of the time. So for veterans, bask in the glory of challenge runs, especially if you run solo. Should you have a friend and you're able to do split screen or local, I can see lots of challenging fun. As for newcomers, honestly, XCOM is likely easier to understand and better to handle solo. But if you have a bunch of friends and you want to share the XCOM experience together in-game at the same time, this may not be a bad pick. The best cheese I can offer is to aim after aiming. As I mentioned before, sight aiming lowers your time, however, standing still and looking with the right stick doesn't. You must take advantage of this. Before you move, use the right stick to check around you, and when you see a good target, try to adjust the camera just right, press the left trigger to start sight mode and let it rip. This technique has been crucial with my sniper rifle-like weapon, allowing to score quick headshots. Also, goes without showing, but as soon as you fire your rifle, immediately stop sight mode. This can maximize the number of shots you make per turn. Also, if things are getting too rough or you need faster upgrades, split screen, just use it. Take advantage of having a second team to work with. Remember though, you'll need to work quickly as you'll have to deal with that timer. If you have, sofa co-op friends, go for it. Next up, for your campaign, I would personally focus on setting up university and basic defenses like the wall and mines. These work wonders on defense missions, especially in solo play. Losing an area can really set you back with your progress. Upgrade-wise, focus on enemy research first to open up the field requirements for the weapons and gadgets. And make sure you have 1, maybe even 2 on your team with area damage weapons. You will be overrun very easily, and the more damage you dish, the better. Also, if you happen to be in good control of the battlefield, use your free room to scope out dead scientists' bodies for extra science. You don't get nearly enough for completing missions, so really try and get everything you can when you're in the field. Research and Destroy blends some of the most memorable mechanics from your favorite games in a slightly more inferior form. It provides an intense challenge and honestly seems downright unfair at times, especially with solo play. With that said, by using the multiplayer systems, assuming it works with your friends, this game can be a fun way to enjoy a night in with a few extra cans of beer. Otherwise, be warned for a challenging and perhaps frustrating experience, given that the online matchmaking remains locked to your friends list. Well, if you made it this far, thank you so much for watching the video. I'm happy this game finally dropped, and I do wish the best for the devs. They seem like it's a pretty good team. Honestly, I just wish I could enjoy this a little bit more with friends or just random people on the internet as intended. Hopefully they'll do something to maybe patch this up later on. Let me know in the comments how you feel about this game if you had the chance to try it, or let me just know your thoughts in terms of kind of having such a simplistic online system. Because, yeah, that just gets me right there. Otherwise, liking the video really helps, and just dropping any comment in there is a long way to go. And if you haven't already and you really want to send your love, subscribing to the channel is the best way to do so. So thank you so much for sending your love. As for my next TAC review, I'll be looking at Light Fairy Tale, Episode 1, so please look forward to that. And this is Show. Always remember, if our back's against the wall, let's switch strats. Cheers!